counsel approach. I thought about it, and I think we're getting, I'm going to agree with defense on this. You can bring him back in, Tina. Deputy Martin, sorry.
Jurors in the courtroom, Your Honor.
Alrighty.
May be seated.
Thanks.
Seated and accounted for, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Were you all able to abide by my instructions during the recess? Okay. We'll be taking a lunch break shortly, and but everybody's okay on sustenance for the moment? All right, good deal. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Go ahead. Yes.
We're going to step down.
Yeah.
After we looked at several of the photographs, not only Mr. Oulson's wound to his chest, the grazing wound to his right wrist area, and we also looked at the photograph of Mrs. Oulson's hand. Okay? Okay. Now, we were talking about the effect of stippling, right? So if you would let's go back to where we were. Okay. Put how her hand was so the bullet doesn't hit these but hits these. Okay.
I believe that her hand is roughly in this position, and then let's say the bullet enters right there. Her pinky finger is going to be right below, right in this area like that, maybe curled a little bit. This is the best I can do. Probably it's going to be something more like this, and then his wrist is going to be up here, so I get stippling here, and that accounts for the stippling that we're seeing here. So her hand could be here, her hand could be here, his wrist, I can move it in and out and still line up the wound. So it's not like I'm telling you exactly the range of fire, just with somewhere, and the gun is here going this way. And so the wrist is anywhere from 4 to say 15. That's my best scientific estimate. And then her hand is somewhere behind his wrist and probably down here.
Objection, speculation.
Oh.
Probably down here because I stippling here and then stippling here, and not so much on her fingers.
Right. If you would, just put the hand back where it was. We talked about intervening objects, and is that one of the things that we look at to determine the different possibilities of where people are located when they're shot?
Yes, and in this case you have 3 intermediate targets. 3. 1, 2, and then the shirt he's wearing. 3. Then it hits body.
Right. In the event there's a seat back and close proximity of Mr. Oulson's hand, and there's no bullet hole passing.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Yeah, I'm sustained. Move on.
Let's assume this hypothetical. Go back to where the position is. Okay. Assume the hypothetical that there's in fact a intervening object consistent with a seat back. The hypothetical is there's no hole.
Beyond the scope of his expertise, Your Honor.
May I approach?
Yes.
You would put it back in the position. Now, you described this as a what kind of room for Mr. Oulson?
Intermediate range grazed gunshot wound.
Okay. Is there anything to indicate that the bullet struck an object before it hit Mr. Oulson's wrist to cause it to tumble?
No.
Okay. Have a seat. Have a moment, clerk.
You may.
Approach. I'm placing in front of you State's Exhibit number 51 that's in evidence with the testimony that this is in fact Curtis Reeves, a photograph taken at 3:44 p.m. And also in front of you is State's Exhibit 52, a photograph with the previous testimony that it was taken at 4:03 of Mr. Reeves. And I'll give you a moment to look at those photographs.
Okay.
We're going to shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about blunt trauma. What is blunt trauma?
Well, you have sharp force trauma and blunt force trauma. Somebody hits you with a bat, it's blunt force trauma. Somebody stabs you with a knife, it's sharp force trauma. And at some point, those two meet. You know, like maybe a butter knife would be kind of sharp force, but you get duller and duller, you start getting in blunt force, right? So it means non-sharp force injury, a blunt impact.
I'd like for you to assume the facts in this hypothetical. If a blunt object the size of an iPhone was thrown from a distance of approximately 3 feet and strikes a human head in the face while that individual is wearing glasses, what injuries would you expect to see about the face behind the glasses?
Well, that's a tough question. I mean, how hard is the phone thrown would be number one, but typically on your face, if you get something thrown at you and it hits you in the glasses and you're wearing glasses, behind the glasses you're relatively spared. While if the glasses are mashed against your face, the bridge of your nose, where the nose piece are, or around the ear, or around here, if the lens impacts you, if you're going to get impact significantly, the glasses will protect your eyes to a good degree. You may see peripheral injuries, but if it's hard enough to break the glass, then you're talking something. Yeah, you could probably get an eye injury.
Right. Add to the hypothetical
that the glasses were not broken?
Of all the places on the face that you would expect to see an injury, if you throw something at someone with glasses, would be the least likely place to get injured, logically would be behind the glasses, because they're protective compared to the rest of your face.
What I'd like for you to do, may I just approach briefly?
You may.
Using State's Exhibit number 51 in relation to State's Exhibit number 55, the testimony that those pictures were taken contemporaneous at the time of 344, and then look at State's Exhibit number 52 along with 53, with the previous testimony that those two photographs were taken contemporaneously at 4:03. I'd like to direct your attention, I'd like to direct your attention to the left. Well, let me just ask you this. Do you see any injuries in those photographs?
Well, I've been shown these photographs before, so I already kind of know what you're asking. If you were to ask me objectively, tell me where the injury is, I'd say I don't appreciate one.
What does that mean, you don't appreciate one?
I would be like saying, tell me where, I don't know what I'm looking for. It would be, if it's an injury, it's so subtle that I wouldn't immediately stand out to me in the photograph.
Okay. If I directed you to the left eyelid,
I can see that it appears in the first two photographs with the glasses on, it appears that the left upper lateral eyelid is slightly more red than the right one.
okay. Using the photograph that was taken at a time later in the white jumpsuit there, do you see that injury?
The lateral photograph?
Yeah.
Yeah, his eyelid,
I call it injury. What do you see?
I don't see any swelling or edema. If anything, it's a little red, and compared to the other eye, it's a little bit redder. But doesn't look like there's any hemorrhage in the white of his eye. There's no swelling or what we call edema in the eyelid. If there's an injury to his eyelid, and then the upper eyelid's not much different color from the lower eyelid. If there's an injury there, it's extremely subtle as depicted in these photographs.
Okay. Let's talk about the eyelid. I don't know if I'm going to use the right term, but I'll do the best I can as a lay person. Your eyelid compared to maybe the heel of your foot, as far as being tough, fragile, you know. Let me just ask it this way. Is the eyelid a fragile part of the body?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Well, the skin is very fragile. It's protecting. It's got to move fast. It's very vascular. It's blinking. It's mostly there to protect your eye from debris. It would be probably one of the most fragile pieces of tissue on your body. I suppose your lip would be pretty fragile as well. And on men, there's certain parts of your body that are fragile too, but your eyelid is not a strong part of your body. In fact, if you're strangled to death with somebody's hands, the blood vessels in that area of the body are so fragile that the actual strangulation and obstruction of venous outflow from your head will cause those blood vessels to rupture. They're so fragile. You're not even touching the blood vessels, just pressure's causing them to pop. So the tissue and the blood vessels there are fragile. Certainly more than your forehead, palms of your hands, skin of your back, your feet. It's thin.
Going back to the hypothetical that a blunt object the size of an iPhone being thrown from a distance of approximately 3 feet, give or take, strikes the human head in the face while wearing the glasses, specifically if that object is thrown and hits the glasses themselves, what injuries would you expect to see?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
if you're wearing glasses like me, my glasses, I've been wearing glasses since I was 19 years old. I've been hit in the face by stuff. If you saw stuff, if you have stuff flying around, your kid throws something at you, my glasses have saved my eyes numerous times. Now, if you have a baseball, a high velocity cell phone, a high velocity larger object hit your face, the glasses are going to be mashed against your face, and you're going to have injury here around the frame, but the stuff underneath the glasses is protected as compared to the stuff not covered by the glasses. I can say that. It's almost common sense. So if the glasses are intact, if they're not broken, if it's not a penetrating bullet, then yeah, the stuff behind the glasses are going to be more protected than the stuff not protected by the glasses.
Can the redness that you see in those photographs, can that redness be caused by taking one's finger and just rubbing it over and over? Is it the eyelid that fragile?
If you rub your eyes, you can make your eyes red. If you rub any part of your skin with sufficient frequency and velocity and time, you can make an abrasion. You can make hyperemia, where you're irritating the tissue and the blood vessels dilate and you get a welt. You can do that. Certainly the eyelid would be one of the easiest places to do that.
All right. Now, you talked about previously about the cheekbone area where there's bone underneath the skin, the chin, as far as it's not flexible, so if something hits it, it can cause what?
Well, if the most likely places for a blunt object to cause skin injury from a flying object would be skin that overlies bone. And so if you fall on your chin, you'll get a laceration, a cut from hitting the hard object like you fall on your chin. Or if you get punched, boxers, people that do martial arts, a lot of the cuts are here because basically the fist or the blunt object hits the skin and crushes the skin between the hard object and the bone underneath, causing a laceration or a cut. But if it hits you in the belly, you're not going to get a laceration or a cut. You're more likely to have no visible injury at all. You may have one inside, but generally outside you may not. So the most likely places to display injury on the human face are areas where there's bone underneath or teeth. Get hit in the mouth, your teeth are hard, your lips can be crushed between the hard object and your teeth.
Regarding the photographs and the state's exhibits before you, do you see any injuries on Mr. Reeves that is consistent with that?
Well, there's nothing on the bony prominences of his face that I can say. I don't see any injuries there at all.
There's a time difference between the photographs. Would you expect to see some swelling to begin between the two photographs if he was hit with a blunt object?
Well,
From that point in time?
I have 3:44 p.m.
And the other
and
one?
then 4:03, and I
And
think
the
the incident was 1:30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if there's going to be some swelling, I think I would see some of it. I don't think there'd be a big difference between the two photographs, even if there was an injury. You know, you're going to get, it'll be an hour or two, you'll start to see swelling. If there's a significant injury.
In the event that you were performing an autopsy and you observed what we see in the photographs of Mr. Reeves, how would you describe him, if at all?
I don't even know if I don't even, like I said, would even say anything about it. It's so subtle. And, you know, people don't have monochromatic faces. Sometimes you'll see someone with a little bigger eye, little lower eye, maybe the lip is a little redder on that side, and you get to the point where you just describe something, you've know is an injury. This, I don't even know if I'd appreciate it as an injury.
Again, we use the term appreciated, which is a term of art in your world. Explain to us what you mean.
Kind of like, hey, look, there's an injury. I'm seeing it. Yes, I see the injury. Here, you'd have to point out, what about the eyelid? And I'd say, I don't, it's a little redder maybe, but you know, I'm not really going to say it's an injury.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
You may.
Dr. Thogmartin, based on your internal and external examination of Mr. Oulson, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to the cause of death?
Yes.
What is that?
Gunshot wound of chest.
And based on the criteria that you laid out for us earlier this morning, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to the manner of death?
Yes, homicide.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Carlos?
Want me to do it now, Your Honor?
I don't know. Approach. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's going to be a little while before Mr. Michaels gets done, and not surprisingly, Mr. Martin took quite some time as well. So I think we better go ahead and take a lunch break and let you guys refresh a little bit. Let's take 1 hour. Be back at 2 o'clock, and we'll get ready to get started again. Dr. Thogmartin, sorry, you can take a lunch as well. We'll resume. Remember my instructions during the recess. Thank you.